Tasmania's traditional north-south divide has been writ large this election campaign. The politicians have been lavishing funding promises on the marginal northern electorates of Bass and Braddon, while the south has felt left out in the cold. This week, Julia Gillard finally visited Hobart. The capital city is still waiting for Tony Abbott. As Martin Cudahy reports, the seat of Denison might not be as safe as once thought.
With the federal campaign in full swing, local members are doing their best to attract your vote. Plenty of Canberra's attention has been focused on the marginal seats of Bass and Braddon. But has spending been a little more frugal in Hobart?
We're the only capital city in Australia that is not receiving a substantial Commonwealth Works grant, and that's very bad.
It's a traditional north-south spat, complete with finger-pointing and grandstanding. The mayors of southern Tasmania are so fed up, they've formed a posse to try and attract some federal attention.
It's not servicing the community well to be concentrating on marginal seats, because some of us live in safe seats.
I'd hope they don't just simply pork barrel, as you said before, vote by.
There's 1 week still to run in the campaign, and the 12 mayors want the leaders of both parties to head south wielding chequebooks. They've resorted to stunts in an effort to get noticed.
If Julia wants to come down here, we'd welcome her with open arms, wouldn't we? Yeah. Absolutely. I just think it's time to look at things strategically, to look at making sure that, that funds are spent where it's needed, not necessarily where the most votes come from. Now, that's easy to say, and not always easy to see put into practice.
For power to change hands in Denison, an enormous swing is needed to unseat Labor. There's a margin of more than 15%. Also a Labor stronghold is neighbouring Franklin. It's been held by the ALP since 1993 and currently has a margin of 4%.
When electoral cycles like this come about, the apparatchiks in political parties look at the seats that they need to put the resources in, and a 15% margin is not one of them.
Tony McCall is a senior lecturer at the University of Tasmania's School of Governance. He believes electorates have to compete for attention, and the winner is rewarded with a more livable community.
Any leverage that local mayors in southern Tasmania, legislative councils in northern Tasmania, any leverage that they can get to be part of that battle line is what we're really talking about.
Figures produced by the Southern Mayors show between 1980 and 2007 just 16% of Commonwealth funding for roads in Tasmania was spent in the south.
It is an aberration. Look, I think we have to understand that all our electorates, all our local government areas are really in a contest, and it's a significant competition.
As Mr Hawke unveiled a plaque...
As Prime Minister, Bob Hawke opened the Bowen Bridge in 1996. But funding for its construction was secured by the then Liberal member, Michael Hodgman, when Denison was a marginal seat.
It was the most litmus seat in Australia. It always went by tradition with the party which won government.
Here is your federal member for Denison, Michael Hodgman.
Mr Hodgman won in 1975 and held Denison for the next 12 years. He says it was easier to secure funding for those big ticket items when voting went down to the wire.
The move of the Antarctic Division from Victoria to Tasmania was an enormous boost, and that still continues down at Kingston. The move of the CSIRO division.
With Denison being such a safe Labor seat in more recent times, Mr Hodgman believes the funding has dried up. The current Liberal candidate agrees.
Fundamentally, I am sick and tired of Hobart being treated as a second-class backwater town.
I'm Cameron Simpkins. I'm your Liberal.
Cameron Simpkins is a boat builder by trade, a former major of an Army sniper platoon, and can drive a forklift. He's telling anyone who'll listen that the electorate has been run down while Labor's had the reins.
Duncan Kerr has been silent for 23 years. You only have to look at the infrastructure in this town to see what hasn't been done.
I think we've had a very good advocate in Duncan Kerr in the past 20 years. He's been a strong advocate for this seat and this state.
Good luck. I hope you get in.
Jonathan Jackson is the son of former State Attorney General Judy Jackson. He's Labor's Denison candidate and has spent most of his life in the electorate. The chartered accountant has never been an elected representative, and he refused to say whether he thinks marginal electorates get preferential treatment. It seems to me, though, you're avoiding the question a bit, Mr Jackson. I'm asking you, do you think that more attention gets focused on marginal seats than on safe seats during an election campaign?
Look, as I've said, we've had a number of senior ministers that have visited Denison.
Not an average day at work.
After much criticism and pleading, the Prime Minister has finally visited southern Tasmania in the penultimate week of the campaign, but she left the chequebook at home. Julia Gillard spent the night in Denison, but didn't campaign there. That was left to Franklin, a seat Labor holds with a smaller margin.
1, 2, 3, push.
And even though it's been operational for more than a month, she officially launched the national broadband network.
This technology is about so much more than those direct jobs today. It is about our ability to compete and have the jobs of the future.
Hello, hi, how are you?
Then she promptly went north and again plied the marginal seats with cash. The hope for a big spending spree down south in the future rests on how tight the race gets.
The only way that will happen is if that margin's reduced and political parties see that it's a contest in the seat.
There's two other candidates who could just help transform Denison into a marginal seat. In one of the greenest electorates in the country, the Greens have nominated Dr Jeff Cowser, an emergency specialist.
It has been taken for granted for too long by, I think, the federal government, regardless of who's in power. And I think it's time that I felt it was time to stand up and talk about the things that I really believe in, which is health, education, the environment.
The other independent candidate, Andrew Wilkie, is hoping fourth time lucky. He narrowly missed out on state parliament earlier this year, and now he's back for another tilt at federal politics.
There is a deep cynicism in the electorate about political parties and about party politics. There's a great interest in independent candidates.
Hobart's Lord Mayor, Rob Valentine, is making just one prediction, and he knows a thing or two about winning elections.
Don't think Denison's safe, because, it's obviously up for grabs. And I wouldn't second guess the community on this one.